yogis, today's tutorial is about the vinyasa. Oh, yeah. So if you've taken a flow class, you have heard the word vinyasa about a million times. And the translation specifically just means linking breath with movement. So that's why when you go into a vinyasa class, it's often inhale your arms above, exhale, hinge, inhale. Teacher's talking about inhaling and exhaling because that's the whole point of a vinyasa class, okay? But it also refers to specifically a group of poses that are linked together, the vinyasa, right? And that's your chaturanga dandasana, your upward facing dog, your downward facing dog, okay? And there are different vinyasas. There are different types of vinyasas. There's the chin, chest, knees version, or knees, chin, chest, knees, chest, chin. I always screw it up. Anyway, we're not doing that version, so it doesn't matter. For today's tutorial, it's just going to be chaturanga, upward facing dog, downward facing dog, and the modification of it. So probably what I see most often in students is that they don't quite have the strength to do the full vinyasa with the correct alignment. And so there are all sorts of ways that they get out of the work, but that ends up causing injury and it doesn't build the right muscles. So finding the right modification and practicing within your skill level is super important in yoga, and this is no exception. So let's start with the vinyasa itself. And you'll see it usually coming either from, your downward facing dog, or maybe you're in the middle of a Surya Namaskar, where you were standing. Plant your hands and make your way to plank. Although plank not technically part of that vinyasa, it's often the starting point. So your shoulders are over your wrists, your kneecaps are lifted, your ribs are squeezing in, your belly button is pulled into your spine. But at the same time, you want to do the same wrapping movement that I talk about in my arm balances, where I'm going to wrap my triceps behind me and broaden my collarbones a little bit. So even here, there's no valley between my shoulder blades, but I'm not hunched over and my chin isn't down, okay? I'm still like a turtle head coming out of the shell, top of my head is reaching forward. Okay, from here I'm gonna rock forward on my toes and lower halfway. So you'll notice my elbows are right over my wrists, my heart is reaching forward slightly, and my elbows are next to my ribs. Right, push my heart through, push into my hands, strong legs. This is upward facing dog. You'll notice my legs and body never touched, right? They went from chaturanga to up dog. I'm gonna roll right over those toes, hips lead the way, and find downward facing dog. Downward facing dog, rooting down. I once did a workshop with Madia's Radi where she spent over an hour on downward facing dog alone. Just that one pose. I've never been so sore in my entire life. But the point is that this tutorial could be an hour long just talking about down dog. So I'm going to give a few cues here, but please don't think that that is the extent. You could spend a lifetime studying this pose and still find something new to notice within the energy of it in your body, moving through it, even after a lifetime. I mean, it's just, it's a marvel. So downward facing dog, let's talk about that. Heels are reaching for the mat, rooting down through your inner hand. The outsides of your wrists are light. Your head is just neutral and heavy. So if you have really open shoulders, oftentimes I'll see students just hanging in that shoulder joint, right? So just like when we were in plank, just like all of those arm balances, just like prep before handstand, you're gonna wrap those triceps in so that if you were to bend your elbows, they would start to bend down and not out so much. So that protects those shoulder joints. And then you also want to remember that downward facing dog is technically a standing pose. So oftentimes, you know, beginners will be here, but you really want to encourage that weight back towards your heels. You can even lift your toes to find that energy there. Your belly button is pulled in, those triceps are wrapped, your shoulders are nice and supported, but your head is soft. And then we'll lift it forward, find plank. Now, if you don't quite have the strength to lower with those elbows straight down and you feel pain in your shoulders or pain in your elbows, for a long time, it's perfectly it's perfectly acceptable, to take the modification with your knees down. You're still gonna wanna rock forward though. Drop to your knees, untuck your toes. Those feet are gonna stay planted. Don't let them come down, come up as you drop your heart. And then we're gonna keep a nice long line from your knees to your shoulders. Slowly control the lower down, bend those elbows back. Control, 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 control. Once you get to the bottom, start to push into the tops of your feet. Your kneecap should be off of the mat. Start to push your pubic bone down into the mat. Lift your belly button off the mat as you inhale, roll your shoulders back like you're trying to touch your elbows straight back to the wall behind you. Head is nice and neutral. Maybe you extend your chin forward slightly. And then we'll lower it down. Curl your toes under. Start to push it back. Downward facing dog. Okay, that's the modification. So one more time, just using the breath. Inhale, forward, rock forward, drop to your knees. Exhale all the way down. Inhale, roll your shoulders back, baby cobra. Exhale, send it back, downward facing dog. Okay, that is a great version if you're nursing injuries, if you're new to the practice, as you're building strength. Once you're able to do that, and it's easy cheesy, we're gonna find that full vinyasa. So roll it forward to plank. Again, rock forward on the toes. And the reason we're doing that is we really want to, when we lower those elbows, to be right over your wrists. As you inhale, we'll push your heart through your arms. Tops of the feet push into the mat. You'll notice my legs and body never touch, right? I went straight from chaturanga, push my heart through, upward facing dog. As I exhale, curl right over those toes, hips high and back, downward facing dog. This time I'll show you with the real-time breath, right? So I'll come forward, roll it forward, inhale for plank, rock forward, exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, push it through, up dog. Exhale, send it back, downward facing dog. Strong arms, wrapping those triceps, heels reaching for the mat. Head is neutral, belly button pulled in. Now, as you're learning to find, here's a few cheats that I see in class. So if this is you and you're like, uh-oh, I do that, I see you. One of them is you'll often hear teachers say, elbows right in next to your ribs. And the reason they're saying that isn't that they want you to actually support your ribs with your elbows, is they don't want you to wing out, okay? It's a cue to make sure that your elbows are bending back and not out and endangering your shoulder joint, yeah? But there should be about an inch space between your elbows and your ribs, right? So if you are supporting your rib cage with those ribs, then, reconsider, give yourself a little space. The other thing I'll see a lot is this for chaturanga. If your booty is up in the sky and your chest is down here, right? Those shoulders, they should be even with your elbows. Pick them up. And if you want to get good at finding what that feels like, grab a couple of blocks. great thing about these blocks is that for most of us, it's like the perfect, it's almost exactly the length of your forearm. So you can line up your fingers right behind those blocks and just lay your shoulders right on them, okay? There's not a lot of work done here. Like, look, come on, no hands, no hands. Bring your fingertips behind your blocks. Pull your ribs in, start to engage your core. Legs are super, super strong. And then just hover your shoulders up off the blocks. Right, for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower it down. Right, that is a great way to teach your body the muscle memory of where chaturanga is. Feel free to look in a mirror if you have access to one. It's a good one. Now, upward facing dog. The neglected of the dogs. We spend so much time in down dog, we spend hardly any time in upward facing dog. But if you bring your hands right next to your ribs, right, elbows right underneath your, wrists right underneath your elbows, start to push the tops of your feet down into the mat. Roll your shoulders back. And then start to push, 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 right? So here's the thing I see often in class is that shoulders will be hunched into your ears, right? You're gonna roll them back. So start to pull them behind you as you push your heart through and actively press the ground away, right? Your booty is engaged, your legs are engaged. And then roll over your toes and find your downward facing dog. So I hope that answers some questions. If you guys have any questions about that, about vinyasas or about chaturanga or about upward facing dog, let me know. Drop a comment. You can DM me if you need to, and we'll get to it. So happy practicing.